Another story that we are focusing on here on the Midday View and is taking place up in Limpopo province about the teenager who was arrested in connection with the bullying and assault of Lufuno Mavhunga, appearing in court today. Her lawyer is asking for her to be released into her mother's care, saying she's not coping well mentally. Lufuno took her own life after images of her assault were shared online. My colleague, that's reporter Lindo Guhle, is outside the Thohoyandou Magistrate Court. He's been up there in Limpopo tracking that story for us. Tell us what happened today. What is the latest you can share with us, Lindo? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Praten. Well, there is a short adjournment at the moment, and we understand that there's a captain of the South African Police Services that is actually expected to also be part of the proceedings inside court. We do understand that the 14-year-old who was seen slapping Lufuno in a viral video is in court at the moment, and there is just that back and forth happening between the state as well as the defense. As far as we understand it, the defense has already presented their case of why they believe that the 14-year-old must be released in her mother's care because she's not coping some of the things you said. She is currently in a youth center, so we are expecting that we will hear some more of those details, particularly when this particular case concludes. But this is the bail application, Praten. But concurrently running with that is, as we understand it, some effort to actually make the two families meet. The families, we understand there are some people that are trying to mediate between the families to say that they must meet. Initially, we did hear just during the week before Lufuno's funeral that the family had no problem meeting the other family, and they said that they do not hold any grudges. But what we just want to get a sense of is just exactly some of those efforts being made to try and meet with the two families. ANC's Youth League activist Lindo Guhle, just give us a sense of some of the efforts that are being made on the side. As we understand it, you've been in the province for a number of days trying to make the two families meet, but what's happening in terms of that process?
Well, ours is to call for reconciliation. It's unfortunate that a young child lost her life, but it's also now to try and save the life of the child who's still alive. The pressure that the child who's arrested has been getting is too much for that child, might be too much. So we're trying to navigate that to make sure that we save her life, but also to emphasize on the point that the bully herself, or the child that can be called the bully herself, might also be a victim of the failure and the systematic failure in our schools, of the lack of mental wellness institutions and the failure by government to implement what you call the schools health. It's integrated schools and health plan. So we are here then to try and see how can we push an African tradition of making sure that families can unite after this sort of situations.
And you are speaking about the fact that you are trying to push a traditional way of dealing with things, which is the union of families. But you're not working alone in this regard. We understand there are other organizations, religious and otherwise, that are actually in contact with you guys. Tell us more about this.
Yes, our view is that the church must play its progressive role in society of trying to heal and stabilize the nation, but also traditional institutions of leadership must also play that role of customary law, and customary law encourages restorative justice, and that's why we have decided to work with the chiefs and work with the pastors to try and reach out to these two families to make sure that at least we look at this from a restorative point of view, restorative justice point of view. And what is that? Is a situation where you'll find that these two families can be reunited to try and save this child, but also to see how this child, through the assistance of these families, can then be used as an anti-bullying ambassador in our schools post this situation, because we believe that this must be a learning curve for everyone. Must be a learning curve for the child, must be a learning curve for the other kids, but must also be a learning curve for society at large. But for Department of Education must also be a learning curve. So the Department of Education must also really be involved in taking this child and taking it to all the schools where there are these issues to explain what happened. But we can only achieve that if this child is not dealt with like a criminal, is not arrested like a criminal, but is saved from all this situation.
All right, we'll have to leave it there for now, but thank you so much for sharing with us. Well, but then, as you are hearing, there are are some efforts that are being made for the families to meet, and we understand that this also includes religious organizations. It also includes the the traditional leaders in the province of Limpopo, particularly in the areas around Thohoyandou. But the effort here is to just bring both families together. What we are understanding is that the ANC Youth League activist here is saying that this child must not be used as an example. Instead, they must also save her life while they lost the life of Lufuno.
Thank you very much. It's 9 minutes to 2 o'clock. Linda Gutlukulu there in Limpopo. Now it's time.